Alright guys, welcome back. It is after the quiz. We're on 5.3, solving systems of equations by elimination. We're going to start off with a little warm-up. Again, you should have already started this when you got in. It shouldn't have taken more than 5 minutes or so. This is review. We're going to look at substitution one more time. So let's get into it. Okay. Alright, so substitution. Now, this is a nice problem because x is already alone. So I can take that x value and plug it into my other equation down below. So we're going to have 3y plus 4 minus 5y equals 23. Okay, that's 12y plus 16 minus 5y equals 23. That is, we're going to combine like terms. So 12y minus 5y is 7y. Plus 16 equals 23. We're going to subtract 16 from both sides. And we're going to get 23 minus 16 is 7. So 7y equals 7. Divide by 7 both sides. So y equals 1. Okay, so if y equals 1, we can take that value, plug it back into the original here. So we can do 3 times 1 plus 4 equals x. I'm doing that first equation right here, right? 3y plus 4 equals x. That's 3. Ooh, why did I? Yeah, 3 plus 4 is x. That's 7 is x. So therefore, my coordinate would be 7, 1. Okay? Nice and easy. All right. Let's get going with today's notes. So, I want to get your notes packet out. I want you to turn to page, well, they're not numbered, but this is solving systems of equations by elimination, right here. Solving systems of equations by elimination. This is 5.3 right here. Okay? All right, we're just going to get straight into it and learn by doing problems. So you've learned the substitution method, which is getting a variable alone. When we do elimination method, we are trying to get a variable alone, but we're doing that by combining the two equations. Okay? We're gonna combine the two equations, adding them together so that it eliminates one of the variables. So for example, right now, I could add these equations together, right? I could add negative 10x, negative 5x, 3y, and 6y, and 1 and 23. But that wouldn't be very helpful because nothing would be eliminated, right? So the question is, well, can we kind of change one of these equations so that when I add them together, one of them gets to be eliminated? And so the answer to that is yes. So if I, for example, this top one here, if I multiplied everything by 2, so everything, both the left side and the right side get multiplied by 2. So I'm going to show that here. So 2 here and a 2 here. What would then happen is we distribute that 2, we get negative 20x plus 6y equals 2. And on bottom, negative 5x minus 6y equals 23. Now, when I add these together, like this, everything has to be lined up when we add them. We're going to get negative 25x, but then 6y and negative 6y are going to cancel. So it's just going to be negative 25y equals 25. I can then divide this by negative 25, divide this by negative 25, and I know that y equals negative 1. Okay? So it's similar to substitution in that you got to do one variable at a time, and you're trying to eliminate a variable. You're trying to get the equation just written in terms of one variable. But the way that we're doing that, instead of getting one variable alone and substituting it in, you're combining the equations together with the goal of eliminating one. Okay, so now we know that y equals negative 1. We can plug it back into one of these originals. We can get negative 10x plus 3 times negative 1 equals 1. So that's negative 10x equals negative 10x minus 3 equals 1. So negative 10x equals 4. Divide by negative 10, divide by negative 10. We're going to get x equals negative 4 over 10, which equals negative 2/5. So your coordinate would be negative 2/5, comma, negative 1. Okay, so this last step here is what you've been doing in substitution, where you take that known variable and plug it back into one of the originals. It doesn't matter which one. Okay, let's do another one for practice. Okay, so 4x minus 3y equals 8, and 5x minus 2y equals negative 11. So here it's a bit trickier because there's nothing I can really multiply this top one by to get 5 or 2, and same thing with the bottom. There's nothing I can multiply 5 by to get 4 or 3. So what we're going to do is multiply both things simultaneously. So let's multiply the top one by negative 2. So this top one here, I'm going to multiply that whole thing by negative 2. And then the bottom one, I'm going to multiply it by 3. And if you're confused why we're doing this, you're going to see in just a second. So when I multiply that top one, everything by 2, everything by negative 2, everything. So it's negative 8x plus 6y equals negative 16. And the bottom one, everything by 3. So 15x minus 6y equals negative 33. So I did this, why? Why did I do it? Because now look, 6y, negative 6y, they're going to cancel out. So now when I add them, I'm going to get, this is 7x. These are going to cancel. And then negative 16 and their negative 33 together will be negative 49. And then we divide by 7, divide by 7. And so x equals negative 7. Right, now you know x equals negative 7, you plug it back in. We say 4 times negative 7 minus 3y equals 8. That's negative 28 minus 3y equals 8. That is negative 3y equals 36. Divide by negative 3, divide by negative 3. Y equals negative 12. Sorry, what I did here was I added 28 both sides. Okay. All right. Ooh, you can see that. So that's another one. It's a bit of a harder one. Okay, so one last one together. Negative 18x plus 6y equals 24, or 3x minus y equals negative 2. Okay. Right now they don't match. But if I multiply this bottom one by 6, I could get them to be opposites of each other. So I'm going to multiply the bottom one all by 6. So let me write them out again. I'm going to get negative 18x plus 6y equals 24. No change there. The bottom, 18x minus 6y equals negative 12. We add these together. We're going to get 0 plus 0 equals 12. So 0 equals 12. Okay, is that a true statement? No. So what does this mean? This is no solution. No solution. Okay, these are parallel lines. There's no solution. All right? Okay, so let's do a little word problem, and then you will have some practice time. Okay, word problem. You are making 6 quarts of fruit juice for a party. You have bottles of 100% fruit juice and 20% fruit juice. How many quarts of each juice should you mix to make 6 quarts of 80% fruit juice? Write a system of linear equation and solve using algebra, no guess and check. So the unknowns are clear. It says how many quarts of each type. So we're going to have, we have this 100 and we have this 20. So let's call it H is quarts of 100%, and T is quarts 20%. Okay, and we know there's 6 quarts, so we know that the quarts of 100% plus the quarts of 20% have to equal 6. We know that. Okay, we know that the quarts of H, the total quarts is 6, so H plus T must equal 6. We also need to make 6 quarts of 80% fruit juice. So 80%. So we have 100%, and then we have 20%, and then they come together to make 80%. So that means if we weight them, we need to have, you can imagine it as, even though 100%, that's just kind of 1. We're going to kind of placeholder that with 1. I think this would actually make more sense if we just stayed in percentages. So rather than saying 1, I'm going to say 100. So we're going to say 100% fruit juice H plus 20% concentrate fruit juice T needs to equal 80% times 6. It's got to be 6 total quarts. Okay, so let's just make sure this makes sense here. H plus T is 6, right? There's 6 quarts, so the quarts of H of 100% juice plus the quarts of 20% juice has to equal 6 quarts. That makes sense, right? Then down here below, it's kind of like a GPA kind of question. You can think of it like that. It's like, well, the amount that we add needs to be true that this value over here on the right is 80% of that fruit juice, right? 80% is fruit juice. So we're gonna probably we're gonna add some 20% fruit juice, but we're gonna need to add more 100% fruit juice to get it to be 80, right? Because if I added half and half of the same, right, it would be 60% fruit juice, right? So this is kind of like a weighted average. Is kind of what you're doing. You're saying, okay, well, some part needs to be 100%, some part needs to be 20%, and that needs to get me 80% of 6 liters. Okay, so we're going to solve this. So let's use elimination because that's what we've been doing. So we're going to multiply this top one here by negative 100. So I'm going to multiply the whole top one here by negative 100, and I'm going to write them out over here. So we're going to have negative 100 H minus 100 T equals negative 600, and then on bottom 100 H plus 20 T equals 480. I'm going to add these together. You're going to get negative 80 T equals negative 120. And when we divide by negative 80 on both sides, we're going to get T equals 1.5. So that means I'm adding 1.5 quarts of the 20%. So if I'm adding 1.5 of the 20% and it has to add up to 6, that means I've got to be adding 4.5 of the 100% stuff, right? So T must be 1.5, then H must be 4.5 because they've got to add up to 6. Okay? All right. So at this point, guys, take a look at the notes and then try these additional practice problems, okay? So think about trying to make one of these variables equal but opposite, okay? And this second question here is just like that example 2. Okay, I'm going to do these problems because this is a harder section, so hopefully you've tried them. Now I'm going to do them, so you can check your answers. Okay, so I want these to be the same numbers, 9 and 6. So if I multiply the top one by negative 2, this whole one by negative 2, and this bottom one by 3, they will be opposites here. That'll be negative 18, and that'll be positive 18. So I'm going to have negative 18x minus 4y equals 78, negative 78. And then on bottom, 18x plus 39y equals negative 27. And we're going to add those together. So we add them together, we're going to get, this is going to be 0, this is going to be 35y, and then here, 78 and 27 is going to be 105, negative 105. Okay, So then when we divide both sides by 35, divide by 35, we're going to get y equals 3, or negative 3. Okay, now I know y equals negative 3. We're going to take it back, plug it into one of these. So let's do 9x plus 2 times negative 3 equals 39. It's negative 6 equals 39, 9x. So that's 9x equals 45, divided by 9, divided by 9. So x must equal 5. Okay? All right, this one on the right. Okay, so I can make the bottom one equal the top one by multiplying by 5. So let's do that, and then we'll write it over here. 15x minus 5y equals negative 20. That's negative 15x plus 5y equals 20. We're going to add them together. So it's going to get 0, 0. It's going to be 0 equals 0. So this is a little different than what we had previously, where they did not equal and there's no solution. This is just a true statement, 0 equals 0. So this is not no solutions. This is infinite solutions. They're the same line. Okay? All right, last question. Nick and Chloe have 2 grades of buttermilk. One is 24%, the other is 18. How much of each should they use to end up with 42 liters of 20% butterfat? Write to systems of linear equations to solve using algebra. Okay, so it's kind of the same question of what we had before. It's the same kind of thing. So we have 24% butterfat and we have 18. So let's call it the T will be the 24% liters, and then 18% will do E. Capital E will be the 18% liters. Okay, so we have 42 liters total. So that means that T plus E has to equal 42. It also needs to be 20%. So that means that 24T plus 18E has to equal 20 times 42. And these are my two equations. Okay, so same basically as before. You could use substitution, or since we've been doing elimination, I'm going to continue doing elimination. We can multiply this whole top one by negative 24. And we'll have two new equations. We'll have negative 24T minus 24E equals, and then 42 times negative 24. So 42 times negative 24 is negative 1008. And then bottom, we have 24T plus 18E equals, and then 20 times 42 is 840. So we're going to add these together. So negative 24 and 18 that's negative 6E equals, and then negative 1008 plus 840 is negative 168. We're then going to divide both sides by negative 6, and we will get negative 168 divided by negative 6, 28. So E is 28. So E is 28, and T plus 28 equals 42. That means that T has to equal 42 minus 28. That must be 14. Okay, so it must be 28 liters of the 18% and 14 liters of the 20%. The 24%. Okay. All right. That is lesson 5.3.